Please welcome BTS.
Bong Joon-ho.
Now, with the show that everyone's talking about, it's called Squid Game. It's a violent thriller from South Korea.
Hey, look, I'm not scared of the Squid Game. I actually want to try it out.
I've been thinking a lot lately about how important Korean culture has become. I was watching Tudum, which is the Netflix con, I suppose. It bothers me that they don't call it Tudum because that's the actual noise, but they go with Tudum. And I was going to make a video about how everything is an event nowadays, but actually, as I was watching Tudum, it just reminded me that I've been thinking for a while about how Korea is the new dominant culture in the world. I myself watch loads of Korean movies and TV shows, and I know that Korea has dominated the music and fashion and beauty scene as well. When I was growing up, the US was the dominant cultural force, sweeping the world with its movies and fast food and toys. But I think that cultural influence has shifted to coming from South Korea, and today I'm going to explore why. In 2017, BTS became the first Korean pop group to win a Billboard Music Award. In 2020, Bong Joon-ho was the first Korean filmmaker to win the Oscar for Best Picture, and he was up against people that he mentioned in his acceptance speech as people he looked up to, American filmmakers like Martin Scorsese, who were there on the night competing against him. And in 2021, Squid Game became the most watched series of all time on Netflix. And this year, K-pop star Lisa from Blackpink was spotted with a Labubu, which is a small toy charm that you put on your handbag, which exploded the toy's popularity and people started queuing for hours just to get one. So how did a war-torn country become the trendsetter of the world? We can't cover the whole of history in one video, but I can give an overview of how this all came to be. After World War II, Korea was liberated from the Japanese rule, but immediately caught between two superpowers, the US and the Soviet Union. Without consulting Koreans, the Allies split Korea into the north, which was Soviet occupied, and the south, which was US occupied. This was supposed to be temporary, but of course, the Cold War tensions escalated quickly. Both parts of the country formed governments, and in 1950, North Korea invaded South Korea. The Korean War ensued for 3 years with the US and UN defending the South, and China backing the North. After the war, Korea focused on industries such as steel, shipbuilding, and cars. This created a fast-growing modern economy, but not yet a cultural brand. South Korea had strict cultural restrictions such as censorship of media and art, and state-controlled media and news. After the 1997 Asian financial crisis, South Korea's government strategically invested in culture as a form of soft power. They realised that a single blockbuster film, like Jurassic Park, could make the same amount of money as selling 1.5 million Hyundai cars. And so the choice was clear. It was time to pivot. Culture was the new currency. The Ministry of Culture began funding film, music, drama, fashion, and technology industries. Instead of military dominance, Korea steered into cultural influence to reshape its image in the world. Hallyu is the name given to the rise of the Korean wave, the period of time from the late 90s to the present where Korean culture has risen and risen. In the late 90s and early noughties, K-dramas like Winter Sonata became popular across Asia and K-pop started to emerge. Now, K-pop is fascinating, and I'll admit, as I've been reading more and more about Korean culture and how they turn things around, I have felt slightly inspired and thought, wow, why isn't my country investing in culture in this way? It can create jobs, it can create sustainability, but learning more about K-pop and how it manufactures its stars, I've realised it's not ethical. South Korea started the Idol trainee system, a rigorous bootcamp style training process used by entertainment companies to develop future idols. It sounds really intense, and I've seen critiques of it talking about how it's like a factory for manufacturing pop stars. At the boot camp, you learn how to sing, dance, and behave like an influencer. You start this process very young, often age 12 or 13, although there are examples of children even younger than this. You're still expected to go to school, and you can spend a long time doing this, sometimes as long as 10 years. By the end of the process, polished pop idols emerge, with world-class performance skills and multilingual abilities. But because of this, the standard for performance is very high. The music videos have high-end production value with Hollywood-level sets and camera work, and the stars' social media game is through the roof. It's well known that K-pop fans are amongst the most loyal in the world. And in fact, in 2020, when the George Floyd murder happened, there was a lot of racist hashtags being used online. And K-pop fans, particularly the ARMY, which is the specific fan base for BTS, flooded these hashtags with K-pop stuff. So essentially the hashtags had no meaning. If you were to click on one, all you would find was singing and dancing and silly K-pop fandom. I think that's a really lovely use of collective fandom, and I think it shows the power that these types of influencers have and the people that follow them and what they can do to change the world. In the beauty space, Korean innovations have taken off and changed global behaviours. Things like BB cream, sheet masks, essences, and 10-step skincare routines started in Korea and became common in the West. The focus of Korean beauty is a more natural look than what's typically been associated with US and Western looks. There's a focus on hydration, damage prevention, and achieving a glass skin or a dewy skin look. The transition from the heavily contoured Western look to the more natural Korean look is probably best exemplified in Ariana Grande. She gets a lot of criticism for the change in her appearance, and I'm not here to pile on, but it is a really good example of how fashion in makeup has changed. And in wearable fashion, we've seen the rise of the Southeast Asian, oversized, comfortable, minimalist look. This is prominent throughout Korean culture and has definitely been copied in the West. It's actually quite hard to find a regular fit now because everything is being made to be oversized. And don't get me wrong, it's great to feel like you fit into a smaller size now, but it's also very confusing. Korean stars are seen on the front row at fashion shows and are used as ambassadors for fashion brands. So Fashion Week has become an important event in the fashion calendar. From face masks in your bathroom to outfits on your Instagram feed, Korean culture has influenced things that are appearing in front of you every day. In tech, brands like Samsung and LG have been household names for a few decades now. But the really interesting shift in my home is the introduction of Korean food. I can't remember the first time I had Korean chicken, but I can now tell you where you can get the best stuff, and I can tell you how to make it from home. Supermarket shelves are now stocked with things like Korean barbecue sauce, gochujang. These are kimchi noodles that I buy to take to work for lunch. The food game in Korea is strong, and one of the main reasons that I would want to go to Seoul is for the food. And to bring it back to the focus of this channel, in film and TV, Korea's dominance is growing and growing. I've been on the Korean film train for a while, from Old Boy in 2003 to Train to Busan in 2016. It feels like Korea has always had a presence in my time of examining media. But lately, I've felt like K-media, or K-drama as people love to call it, has been growing in popularity and availability. Last year, I watched a series called Culinary Class Wars, a show where they brought in 80 up-and-coming chefs and made them face off against 20 experienced chefs. So yes, there was 100 contestants on this show. Every round was incredible and the variety of food was unreal. The show itself is such a delight to watch. In the West, reality shows often use anticipation to drive drama. So if you have a big reveal coming up, there's usually a very long pause built in to keep the audience on the edge of their seat. Korean shows don't do this. They reveal the shocking information and then they cut to the reactions of the contestants over and over again to build drama. It's brilliant. In The Devil's Plan, a show where contestants play very complex board games in order to survive, they do this too. Western shows tend to follow a very formulaic structure. Usually you have a challenge as a team that determines who is vulnerable. Then you have a challenge or a showdown that sends somebody home, often with some surprise for the remaining players. But in Devil's Plan, the contestants can be sent home at any point during the show. I've seen them in the middle of a challenge announce that a player has lost too many points to continue and is now eliminated from the entire show. And so they have their sort of goodbye moment whilst everybody is still playing the challenge. Absolutely anything goes in these competition shows in Korea. I've seen the title sequence play 40 minutes into the episode. And I admire the approach of experimenting with formats. I like that they're not afraid to do something different to make something more entertaining. This is just a quick ad read because I myself am a filmmaker. I have worked with the BBC, with Screen Scotland, with BAFTA, and I'm a BAFTA member. And I've taken all of the experience that I have from those projects and infused it into my tool, the FIlmmakers Gameplan, and of course, the FIlmmakers Gameplan Ultimate. The tool itself helps you manage your entire production through all of the stages. And the course really digs into how you can access the resources and people and funds that you need to make your film happen. So this is just a quick plug because if you're watching this thinking you would love to be working in a Hollywood studio someday, the best place to start is making your own indie film project. And the FIlmmakers Gameplan can help you do that. A lot of Korean media focuses on rags to riches stories with a twist, often critiquing capitalism and the economic structure. Squid Game shows a man entered into a deadly round of games, with the prize money dangled above the contestants. Each person in the room believes they have what it takes to get the prize money, and the show makes it super clear that to get it, you have to eliminate the competition. You don't necessarily win, you make sure that everyone else loses. In Parasite, a wealthy family employs a tutor who manages to appear like a diligent middle-class intellect, but in fact comes from a family living on the breadline. As the story unfolds, it explores the various ways in which the poor have found ways to trick and manipulate the rich, but it's not clear by the end who the parasite in the story is. This again examines very critically the wealth gap and takes aim at the wealthy for hoarding riches. In The 8 show, 8 individuals trapped in a mysterious 8-story building participate in a tempting but dangerous show where they earn money as time passes. The person on the 8th floor is at a huge advantage in many ways, not because she has earned any advantages, but because she was lucky enough to pick the number 8 from a series of cards. Korean media is so critical of structure and wealth and hierarchy. It kind of goes against the country's own values and structure, but then the country also values freedom of expression and creativity. It's as if Korean structural media knows that critiquing itself and all of the systems in place that have made Korea a dominant superpower, in fact, sell well. So it's okay to create this critique so long as it makes money. Korean media also has a lot of examples of the US-Korean coming home. In both Culinary Class Wars and The Devil's Plan, US-based Koreans have competed in a sort of underdog position. Their Korean is not as fluent as the other contestants, and they feel a slight detachment from the culture compared to other players. This is fascinating to me because it feels like in the past, the US would be seen as a prosperous land where it would make sense to move from somewhere like South Korea to the US to find opportunity. But now we're seeing real US Koreans journeying back to South Korea to take part in the culture and media there. Language is no longer a barrier, with fans across the world singing in Korean to the biggest bands in the world. And Netflix and Disney now invest heavily in Korean originals. They're happy to dub or sub so that audiences can watch across the world. The US still has massive cultural reach, but I would argue that in some ways, especially amongst younger generations, Korea has overtaken as the main influence. So So what is the first piece of K-culture that hooked you? For me, I know it was movies and TV, but I'm definitely getting on board with the food side of things too. Thank you for watching today, and let me know what you think in the comments.